Greetings from the far side of the galaxy, I'm Fury, your host of the most, just sort of throwing ideas at the wall. If I titled this video right, you should already know what we're talking about. Spoiler alert for Chapter 8, but in the lore of Housamo, the protagonist is a composite of 24 different souls from 24 different worlds. But who are the 24 souls? What did their sacred artifacts do? What got them exiled? Worry not, my hypothetical viewer, because that is what I'm here to answer. Let's get this video started and spin the wheel to see which exile we get. The old ones, is it? In that case, the first exile is Cthulhu, or as it's better known, Cthulhu. We don't know much about Cthulhu, but in the Akiba and the Dragons event, Zurong reveals that Cthulhu was a green draconoid creature with thin wings. We know he was supposed to be in charge of Earth, however that responsibility fell to Odin's when Cthulhu entered a deep slumber underneath the castle of Raleigh. Despite being asleep, he was known, but could not speak in a traditional sense, only able to contact people through their dreams. That's because their version of the rule of rending could rend dreams. Using this, they can briefly contact the outside world. That's how he formed his biggest connection in Tokyo, Dagon. As the world of Canaan fell, Cthulhu gave him a new place in the world of the old ones as the Dagon we know. To return the favor, Dagon searches for a way to free Cthulhu, even to this day in Tokyo. Why was Cthulhu exiled? Ain't that $1 million question? No one really knows what got them exiled, not Dagon or even Azathoth, but we are led to believe that Cthulhu exiled themselves. It also appears that Lifewonders originally planned for the exile of the old ones to be the Nameless Mist, but changed it to Cthulhu. There's definitely more to Cthulhu's whole narrative, but that's to be revealed whenever Lifewonders feels like it. The idea of Cthulhu being asleep lines up one-to-one with what Lovecraft wrote about the Great Old One. And his connection to Dagon and the city of Raleigh comes straight from the story The Shadow over Innsmouth. Overall, I think Housamo did a pretty good job with this one, definitely an exile I want to know more about. Let's give this bad boy another spin. And it's Taka Magahara. The exile of this world is Susanoo, the tempestuous god of storms and a major Shinto god. The most important thing about Susanoo to know is that he was a menace to society. Described as a gangster and thug, and when people recognize Susanoo, the protagonist isn't met with jubilation but an exhausted sigh. He even beat up his brother Tsukuyomi on the regular, but the two still managed to maintain a good relationship. He's the reason his sister Amaterasu went into hiding, or so everyone assumed. Tajika Rao admits that no one ever actually asked. Despite his popular reputation as a delinquent, there exist those who sing his praises. Because the two look similar, Tsukuyomi often took his place at ceremonies so Susanoo wouldn't get in trouble. Daikoku, aka Okuninushi, aka Onamuji, even thinks pretty fondly of him too. After Amaterasu took his lands and forced him into Nainokuni, Susanoo forced him to work in a bathhouse. He was cruel and rough, and Onamuji was convinced he hated him, but he formed the foundation for who Daikoku is today. Susanoo was known to be incredibly open-minded, never judging anyone for first impressions. He also hung out with the 7 lucky gods as they went around the land of Wa under the pseudonym Gozu Tenno. Susanoo's rule of rending could cut authority, and were led to believe it caused friction with his sister Amaterasu. Interestingly enough, despite being world representative, Amaterasu was not the one to exile them. That was their father, Izanagi. We're not sure why it happened, just that he was forced out of the world, but popular opinion of Susanoo did change after his departure. An irony in the lore that corroborates well with an irony in the real-life myth, which I'll be getting into now. It's thought that he was used as a cultural example of what a bad child was, as opposed to Amaterasu. The people of Takamagahara beginning to regard Susanoo as a hero after his departure relates back to the story of him slaying Yamata no Orochi. a famous tale where the god slays a serpentine monster and it's thought to be the reason he's now regarded as a cultural hero. The part about Okuni Nushi and Susanoo spending time in Ni no Kuni is accurate, and Susanoo may be his ancestor, if not his father outright. My favorite interpretation has to do with the protagonist being a bull. Long story short, Gozu Tenno was his own god that got syncretized into Susanoo, so in Housamo they made them the same person. Since we're done with Susanoo, you know what that means. Spin, 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 let's see what we win. Tir na Nog. The exile from Tir na Nog was Lu, the warrior of light and Balor's grandson. The one who exiled them was Balor, and that's due to the way Tir na Nog works. Its system of perpetuity is one where the old are constantly replaced by the new, kings fall and princes rise, only for that to happen over and over again. Balor, in fear of this, killed the father and supposedly his grandson, only to find that he'd been raised in secret. At the behest of all those who wished to see the Tyrant King fall, Lu fought Balor but was ultimately killed and thus exiled from their world. The real tragedy of the situation is that neither of them actually wanted to fight. Balor dreams of fighting alongside his grandson, a warrior so great he shines like the sun. And Lu was only pushed into battle by those saying he should avenge his father. His rule of rending was to cut the gap, a really weird way to say he hit people's weak points. In the myth, Lu shoots out Balor's eye with a sling and wins the day, though that didn't happen in Housamo for better or worse. I would speak more about the interpretations, but Lu is an important character in the myth. Since he's dead in Housamo, there's not anything really relevant for me to say. Coming up after Tir na Nog is... Devaloka. The exile of Devaloka is Kamedeva and Varuna. Lifewonder seems to have blended the two into a single entity. In Housama's lore, we learn that they were the first of the Nagas and actually started out as Varuna, a god of the sky and ruler of Devaloka. The water of creation that Savastar now has originally belonged to them. Using this, they distributed blessings throughout the world, even giving Makara his rule and role. Eventually, after giving away so much, all Varuna had left was love, which led them to changing their name to Kamedeva. This is where Parvati comes in with the desire to make Shiva her husband. You see, Kamedeva's rule of rending was to cut reincarnation, a very annoying way to say they had Cupid's arrows. By bestowing an attachment like love, they could prevent someone from reincarnating, which is exactly what they did to Shiva. However, when the arrow struck Shiva, he didn't fall for Parvati, instead he fell for Kamedeva. So angry was Shiva for popping a boner that he opened his third eye and dusted that fool, thus exiling Kamedeva through death. While the stuff about Kamedeva shooting Shiva is accurate, I don't know why they chose to blend in Varuna. The two gods seem to have no relation in the myth, so why bother blending them at all? Since we're halfway through the video, let me ask that you please like and subscribe, and check out my Bow of the Wild livestream that should be happening tomorrow. Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip! El Dorado. The exile of El Dorado is Quetzalcoatl, who I will be henceforth calling Quetz because Quetzalcoatl is very long. In the beginning, to create the world of El Dorado, he and his brother Tezcatlipoca fought a hereunto unnamed crocodile monster. Tezcatlipoca sacrificed his leg to finally kill the beast, and that would make up their world, and thus El Dorado's rule of sacrifice was born. Quetzalcoatl and his brother ruled El Dorado, fighting often and a lot to the awe of the peasants below them. Despite the distance literally being El Dorado's son created, Quetzalcoatl was close to a few people, namely his brother Xolotl. The two of them traveled to the underworld of Mictlan together. He also knew Itzamna, and the two of them talked a lot about the nature of sacrifice. Granted, while they were friends with Quetz, both of them were kind of scared of him. Ketz was just as prone to violent outbursts as they were reliable. If you asked him to help calm down Tezcatlipoca, there's a decent chance he'd do it by just breaking a chair over his brother's head. However, despite his violent tendencies, the prevailing theme of sacrifice did seem to bother them. Ketz and Izamna talked about sacrifice a lot, and Izamna even worries that perhaps his venting contributed to Ketz's exile. Because Tezcatlipoca didn't exile Ketz, they did it themselves. Ketz decided to leave the world of El Dorado of their own volition, and they used their sacred artifact to make sure it was permanent. We see his rule of rending in Xolotol's limited unit. Its ability is to rend the land, severing connections anyone had to a place, making it like they were never there. Ketz turned his sacred artifact against himself and the world, making it seem like he was never there to begin with. Like everything relating to the Warmongers, Lifehunters put a lot of effort into adapting Ketz. The part about Ketz slaying a crocodile with Tezcatlipoca and journeying to Mictlan with Xolotl are real myths. And that turquoise snake is a real artifact that you can find, surprise surprise, in the British Museum. Since we're done with El Dorado, let's spin the wheel again and we land on Eden. The exile of Eden is the one and only Satan, the fallen angel of light. Guys, strap in, cause oh boy, this one is going to be a headache. So it all begins in Eden, which is a paradise in the oldest sense of the word, a walled-off garden where purity is maintained at all cost. This includes sending down sacrifices to bear the sins of others in the case of Ziz, Behemoth, and Leviathan. And anyone who dare rebels against the system, like Azazel who started simping too hard for the human Ussie. Satan was supposed to be Eden's world representative, not his little brother Michael like we know now. However, it's revealed in the Akiba Dragon's event that perhaps Lucifer learned of the true nature of the Tree of Knowledge. Perhaps its fruit gave understanding of good and evil, perhaps the fruit were meant to give names to all things. Maybe he rebelled because of that, or maybe he rebelled due to a general dissatisfaction with Eden's system. We aren't quite sure who was on which side, but we do know that Markosiash joined the rebellion despite the war being fruitless from the start. Satan's rule of rending is the ability to cut gravity, becoming untethered to the earth. His sacred artifact took the form of 12 golden wings, which he evidently left with Michael. I know I should do the spin again, but I think it's better we just continue with Lucifer by talking about Gehenna. Evidently, the Sand Dragon from the Akiba's Dragon event is actually based on Lucifer's appearance as he fell from Eden. We know of at least 3 people who witnessed the fall for sure. One was Azazel, who watched from Eden. The other 2 were Ziz and Zabaniya, who watched from Gehenna. They were a unique existence in the dark world of Gehenna, shining so brightly they were like the sun. They all flocked to him like moths to a flame. Lucifuge, Baal, Batham, Mephistopheles all bent their knee to the Radiant One. And it's with no small amount of irony that Eden's exile would become Gehenna's world representative. Satan changed his name to Lucifer and ruled quite amicably. Everyone wanted to be at his side, but his position as world rep led to some distance. Not a political divide, but personal. He wanted to be friends with his subjects, but nonetheless, they were his subjects. We do know that one day, Lucifer did bequeath his title of world representative to Mephistopheles and leave Gehenna. Here's the complicated and annoying part. That does make Lucifer an exile, but we don't know if that makes him Gehenna's exile. I lean towards Lucifer not being Gehenna's exile because we have 24 exiles, and that means there's someone aside from Satan. Points against this being that they could consider Satan and Lucifer separate people in a metaphorical sense, in that we have no word of another Gehenna exile, so I have no idea who else it could be. I lean towards Faust being the greatest possibility for another exile since the acting world rep is Mephistopheles. But Satan, Lucifer's, or whatever you want to call him story does not end after leaving Gehenna. We know he entered the world of Garodamana, aka Garothman, or at least his existence was known in Garothman. There he took up a third name, IBLIS, the Thought Cutter. He supposedly looked very similar to Ifrit, and King Solomon promised him that one day Ifrit and IBLIS would meet. Honestly, I find the way Lifehunters managed to blend all the Abrahamic religions together to be the most interesting thing about Satan. There's elements of Judaism in the lore of Eden, but there's Christian notes in his fall to Gehenna, which is akin to Paradise Lost. They even managed to add Middle Eastern lore to the mix with Garothman, even if we don't know much about it. That is all the time we have for today, so I guess we're making this video a two-parter. Who would have thought that 24 is a big number? We'll pick back up where we left off with the Exiles in the next video, but for now we have Patreon shoutouts. For our 3 stars, we have special thanks to 87 Werog, Deku, Zora Chow, Choron, Girion Lefay, Dragon King Yara, and Kayun. For 4 stars, we have Miki Moon and Unknown RC in the Forsworn Conspiracy. For our Super D2per special 5-star shoutouts, we have first Vanilla Flower in To Kill an Empire, then Poor Mage in Blood on the Ice, next Sky King 64 in Ill Met by Moonlight, finally Mahagasaur in A Night to Remember. Thank you for watching, please remember to like and subscribe, and as always, this is Rose Fury signing out.